Hey, Gabriel,
Hey, Gaybros Jose.
where are we today?
I feel like instead of saying our location, we should just say the temperature of the weather outside.
That's playing low as the temperature in Chicago right now.
I'm in 54 degrees weather. What are you?
I'm in 19 with the snow, Fahrenheit.
It's not so bad. It's better than it was this weekend.
Well, the thing is, it's not only about like the total temperature, it's more the thermal feeling. And the thermal feeling usually is like, how the fuck can they be this cold?
Yeah, I understand because I walked to my job, and the other day, Google told me that it was 52 degrees, but it felt like 50, and so.
Oh, yeah, dude, I suffer for you. I suffer. But yeah, what did we watch for keeping ourselves warm this time?
So this was my pick, and supposedly, yeah, this was my pick. I chose the 2017 Yorgos Lanthimos film, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, starring Colin, Farrell, and Nicole Kidman, and the guy from Saltburn, which I'm excited to talk about.
I like that he doesn't have a name.
We've taken a holiday break, so we're misremembering. This was actually your pick, Jose.
Yeah.
You have to explain why you picked it.
I had to explain it, and yeah, sorry. We just realized that it's like this may have been misattributed, like given that we were in Palm Springs, and this was like one of the pending movies that we had for us discussing. And the reason why I picked it, and this was like before Poor Things, is like this has been like the only Yorgos Lanthimos movie that I had never watched. And I was curious about like completing like the whole picture before going to watch like Poor Things. So this was supposed to have taken place earlier, but because of logistics and the likes, we couldn't. And I had never watched it. I don't know why. I think that I heard that it was not as good as other Lanthimos movies. And it was like with Nicole Kidman, and I felt it's like, oh my God, maybe this is where Yorgos Lanthimos is selling himself to Hollywood.
I could be wrong because it was 7 years ago, but I feel like I remember me watching it in theaters and telling you, you could watch it or not.
Yes.
Like, it's nothing exceptional.
This is how much you influenced me. You prevented me from watching a Lanthimos movie.
You sound bitter about that, which must mean that you liked the film.
I mean, I told you something after I finished watching it, not too much, but I felt like, hey, at least this could be interesting to discuss. But yes, this was the reason why I picked it. What is this movie about, Blake?
Okay, so we did take some time off because of the holidays. And I was texting you, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, and saying, hey, are we still on for our appointment this week? You said yes, and I was like, shit, I have to watch The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I haven't done it yet. And turns out I had watched it about a week and a half before. And I wasn't high on edibles that time. I just forgot the film in a week and a half. So I do have the assistance of the Wikipedia plot synopsis. If you remember anything that help me out.
I think that I watched it like a month and a half ago. If you forgot it in a week and a half, I don't know if I'm going to be remembering it. Yep.
All right. So after performing open heart surgery, and we see a real open heart surgery, I think that deserves to be called out. And in fact, I saw an interview with Colin Farrell who said in preparing for the role, he was able to observe an open heart surgery and he passed out in the operating room because it was too intense. So that's very intense. So we see him conducting surgery, and then after that, he goes to a diner to meet 16-year-old Martin, who's played by the character or the actor, I cannot remember, but he's the Saltburn guy.
Barry Keoghan.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So we learned that Martin's father died a few years before, and it looks like Stephen has kind of taken him under his wing. He brings him home to meet his wife and his two kids. He has a young son and a teenage daughter. I think she was teenage, but she's pretty young too, maybe 15.
Yeah.
And Martin seems to like the family. They all get along. He has a special connection with Kim. But because this is a Yorgos Lanthimos film, it's not like pleasant chit-chatting, everything's normal. It's that very strange, like menacing, atmospheric exchange, but everything seems to be pleasant. And so Martin has such a good time, he says, well, Stephen, you have to come now, have dinner at my place. I already told my mom you're coming tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So Stephen feels like he has to come. And Stephen wants to leave, but Martin insists that he stay after dinner and watch a movie with his mom, played by the wonderful Alicia Silverstone.
Yep.
I completely forgot she was in this. And there's weird flirtations, or there's a weird sexual tension, but I think it's just Alicia Silverstone really wants it. But I get the impression that Stephen was also at least flattered by the attention, but not interested in any.
He was trying to be. I have to say that the delivery is so strange in this movie. It's pretty similar to Dogtooth. It's pretty dry, so it's like he's trying to be a gentleman about it. It's like just being thankful about like, oh, I appreciate it, but I'm not interested. But in the way that he delivers it, it sounds like pretty curt, pretty blunt.
Yeah, like rude.
Yeah.
So they start flirting, and Stephen is just like, no, I'm leaving. And then she throws a little bit of a tantrum and says that Martin wants us together as much as I do.
You could be his new father. Yep.
So Martin visits Stephen again at the hospital, complaining of chest pains, and he's worried it's the same cause that killed his father. But Stephen runs some tests, and they can't find anything. And then he says, my mom finds you attractive, you guys should be together, whatever. And after this, Martin's demands for attention become increasingly frequent and desperate. And so Stephen just stops responding. He's like, no, I'm out. And then one morning, Stephen's son, who I would say is 10, all of a sudden can't walk. So they take him to Stephen's hospital. They do a ton of tests. They're saying, hey, there's nothing physically wrong with him. It must be psychological. I feel like I'm forgetting something here. The son insists that he's not lying at all. In fact, I think the mother and the father speak to him separately, and it's like, hey, if you're making this up, it's fine. But he just can't seem to walk at all.
Wait, but at that time, I think that already Martin told Stephen what was going on.
So I can't remember specifically when, but according to the synopsis, it didn't happen. But in my memory, it had already happened.
I thought that it was like pretty early on when the song like suddenly like just falls that he cannot wake, like stand up, is that when he tells him like the whole narrative about like, hey, this is what is going to happen while they're on the diner or something.
You're right. So it says Bob says he can't move his legs, so they rush him to the hospital. Martin visits Bob in the hospital and tells Stephen that to balance things, and we don't understand what that means at this point, Stephen has to kill a member of his own family. And it turns out that Stephen was operating on Martin's father when he died, and it turns out Stephen used to have a little bit of a drinking problem and had a few drinks the day he operated on his father. So Martin informs him, you have to kill a member of your family, and if you don't, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is like it actually tells him like the whole narrative of hey, all of your family, they're going to be like just losing like their mobility. That's the first thing.
That's what I'm saying is he has to kill someone, and if he doesn't, there will be 4 steps that follow, and these are the steps. Go ahead.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so it was going to be like they couldn't actually like just like walk, then they wouldn't have like any appetite, then their eyes will start bleeding, and then they would die. And he's like, hey, if you don't choose, all of them are going to die. Your wife and your 2 kids. So you have to choose. And when their eyes start bleeding, you would only have a couple of hours before this is irreversible.
So basically the reaction of both Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell is just to pretend things are fine. I mean, they're obviously like, they're taken aback by being told this, but they don't believe it, and they just kind of put their heads in the sand. But then Kim, who's actually fallen in love with Martin at the time, collapses and is also hospitalized. Then we see that she can no longer eat. She chokes when Martin tries to feed her. This is when we find out about the drinking. Nicole Kidman becomes convinced that Martin has some sort of power. So she visits him and was like, hey, stop doing this to my kids. And he's like, no, this is just kind of karma. Anyway, everyone starts getting progressively sick. It adds a ton of pressure onto Stephen and Anna's marriage. She's like, hey, you have to fucking address this. Like, take action or we're all gonna die. And then when Bob begins bleeding from the eyes, approaching death faster than anyone else, Stephen decides to put everyone in the living room with a bag over their head, and he has a gun, and he spins around and shoots constantly until he shoots someone.
These very like funny games that I see.
Very, very funny games. In fact, I would be so curious to know if Yorgos
watch funny games.
If he would admit that he took a lot of inspiration from funny games in that scene.
Yeah, there are other stuff that it also happens. That is that the daughter, where she's hospitalized, one day Martin goes to visit, and then she magically can walk. She recovers for a very, very brief period of time, if I recall correctly. And it's almost, she actually promises that she will run away with him if he actually heals him. Then Stephen kidnaps Martin, and they have it on the basement of their house, like for a while, for just for actually just like forcing him to, you're going to heal them. I think that even tortures him a bit, not too much.
Yeah, they definitely, like, at least physical blows, and then Anna tries to convince Stephen to kill him at some point.
Yeah. But he's very, how to say, not really an apologetical, but he's very stoic about it. About like, well, you know, and I'm not doing anything. It's not going to be like changing anything. It's like, this is just karma going for you, like making you choose for what you did.
And I don't think, just in case anyone hasn't seen this, I'm not going to say who dies. Somebody does die, and there's one final scene where there's an encounter between the living family members and Martin that's really, really fucking good scene.
Yep.
Just kill it well. That's not a good one. It's a great ending to this film.
Yep. It's a bit more, is that, well, no one is happy. Let's just, you know, it's fine. Let's just go through the motions. Also, like something, I don't know if you mentioned it, but the movie doesn't give you too much at the beginning. Is that you have no idea about like what is going on. Is like why this guy is even like a successful doctor or surgeon, is even gifting an expensive watch to this teenager kid. I even thought at the beginning, like, are they lovers? What exactly is going on here?
Oh, interesting. My mind went to Love Child. I was like, he's the secret bastard from his affair.
But the way that how they address each other, you know, like by name and very formal, it just felt like almost like a business relationship.
But isn't that Yorgos Lanthimos' style? Like, like you said, they don't give you much. The rules to this universe are not made clear to you, but they seem absolutely clear to everyone else, so much so that most conversations are just matter of fact.
Yeah, well, I would say that, for example, the love story is like that, and Dogtooth, the joke with Dogtooth is that he creates like this micro universe inside of the real world. Is that these people are insane, but they are contained inside of the regular real life world rules. And I think that Alps was like that too. That is that, hey, these people are insane, but they're on the real life world.
I wish there was a calendar reminder to ask me if I remember Alps, because the answer is no. Absolutely nothing.
I don't remember much either. I remember it's like a group of people. They are pretty crazy. They try to do good.
Hired to mourn at funerals.
Maybe. I thought that they were like just hired to do something good. But in any case, we're not talking about it. We have proof, both of us, that we don't remember Alps. So did you like The Killing of a Sacred Deer?
I did. I really did. I'm not going to say it's a great or important film, but I do remember telling you that in 2017. I think I said I could take it or leave it. It's fine. I don't regret seeing it. But when I rewatched it, I was like, one, this is more entertaining than I remember. And two, it's a good film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the thing that I told you after I watched it is that I think that this is better than what I was promised it to be. I don't think that it's at the level of Dogtooth, for example, or The Favorite, or Things, or even The Lobster. But it's like...
That was a big question I was waiting to ask you, if you thought this was better or worse than The Lobster.
I think that it's better than The Lobster. The problem that I have with this one, and I'm going to go straight to the point, is that the emotional impact, and it's not about who dies at the end, it's about some of the delivery, of some of the conversations, like Nicole Kidman saying that, you know what, we should kill one of the kids because we can make more.
Yeah, we kind of left out the horribly sad ways that each family member tried to campaign to Stephen not kill them. So we first see the kids do it, and it's heartbreaking, but then you see Nicole Kidman do it, and I was like, oh, God.
Yeah. So the thing is, how do you say, it doesn't have, as it has this delivery that is so blunt, that is how they act in this universe. I cannot 100% connect with the characters. I think that the perfect balance of quirkiness in delivery with emotional attachment was The Favorite of his movies.
For me, it's The Lobster, because they were in that insane world, but I absolutely believe that Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz were in love. But I think about The Favorite, it's where this film lacks a little bit.
Yeah. Well, because the emotional delivery, or the emotional impact, is based on how much you believe these characters, how much you believe what they're going through, and they accept that at some point they accept that okay, these are the rules of this karma vengeance that is happening. But it's not only about they accepting, it's a bit more about the audience emotional impact. And for me, that part, as they're playing this quirkiness delivery, I think that it doesn't land 100%. It's still pretty good, but it's more of the trade-off with his style.
Yeah, do you think that it's a trade-off, or do you think he's just purposely choosing that mood and style because he's less interested in emotions?
Oh, he is, but the problem is that usually I had the feeling that at least with Dogtooth, the delivery was more purposeful and it fit better because of how bizarre the situation was. And I think that even in Dogtooth, the girl that he was visiting, she didn't used to talk that way. She talked in a normal way. It was more hey, this is the real world visiting this insane house. And now we have in here is the whole world delivers like that. But the way that they operate until Martin doesn't give these rules of what is going to happen, is pretty real world like.
I see what you're saying, but when I think back to Dogtooth and we see correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the one character from outside that little world in the house was the prostitute who had the exact same robotic, emotionless interactions with everybody.
I think that she didn't. I think that it was not as pronounced as that, because she used to actually just be a bit shocked about the interactions with the kids.
But doesn't she she gives one of the daughters a gift? She goes down on her, but it's very it's not predatory. It's hey, I have this thing. Do you want to kiss my vagina?
No, lick my keyboard.
Okay, sure. That's a merch idea for the podcast. A shirt that just says lick
my keyboard. I think that on this one, and regardless, if she did that or not, as it was a bit more of a self-contained, a small universe picture, is that doesn't really matter. Is that it would matter more for The Lobster, but as the universe that is depicted in The Lobster is so different from ours, is that you decide to roll with it, like similar to Poor Things, is that you don't care if the delivery is more robotic, more, hey, this is about ice cream that we are going to be reading for the first time without adding any emotion to it. But the problem in Killing of a Sacred Deer is that I feel like the value is from the emotional struggle that they are having. And if they are doing like this delivery that is based on you don't have emotion on the delivery, it breaks a tiny bit what it would have happened. I feel like, hey, Yorgos Lanthimos just thought is that all of my movies have been like this. Is that Alps is like this, Dogtooth is like this, The Favorite is like this, so this one has to be like this too.
It's interesting. My mind is grappling with all of this. Because I don't... So would you have felt better, for instance, if Stephen and Anna showed some emotion at the loss of their child? Like that sort of showing of emotion would make you feel...
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because the thing is that the script is so weird. You know, like the premise is so weird. That I don't know how this would have worked with a more traditional acting.
It's interesting because we're talking about all of this, and I'm thinking about Poor Things, which we just saw recently, and how vibrant it is in expressions of emotions, even if they're weird emotions. Like Mark Ruffalo was, you know, desperate to keep Bella, and Bella had such an enthusiasm for exploring the world.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at the funniest line I think Yorgos has ever written, which is when a young mom Bella for the first time, what a beautiful retard.
Like Rami, you said. Yeah, that's amazing. Or the furious jumping. I still use furious jumping from time to time. I like the furious jumping.
But it's true. If we look at the spectrum of all of his films, the ones that are on closer to, hey, we feel like these worked the best, he does allow some of that emotional impact to come in. And this is definitely, in my opinion, the Killing of a Sacred Deer, less of an emotional experience.
Well, but you watched The Lobster many more times than I did. I'm pretty sure. I mean, actually, Salva just confirmed it. He answered for you.
Right up to the mic and
he has something to say. But it was The Lobster more times than I did. And I think that
3 times, yeah.
Okay, I watched it only once. I think that the acting was pretty similar to The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I don't know, though. There are these moments of tenderness, and maybe the acting is still kind of rigid, but remember when they have the silent dance party where they each listen to the
yeah.
And there's like a joyousness in that moment that you can tell they're getting something. There's nothing like that in The Killing of the Sacred Deer. There's no intimate moments at all.
Well, no, there was the moments where they have sex. I guess Steven and
you mean when she pretends to be put under general anesthesia? That's the emotional moment in this film?
Yeah, maybe it's a bit for reinforce. Okay, sure. I mean, it may be on purpose. It may be like with the idea of they don't have any emotions, so the only way that they can get off is simulating even having less feelings, not even having like.
But again, to my point, that's not a moment of tenderness. It's not a moment of joy. It's not a moment of respite. It's just exposure of dysfunction. So that's why I think The Lobster works better on an emotional scale than this film does.
Yeah, than this one. I have to agree. You know that I'm not the biggest fan, but I think that it may land better. It doesn't make the movie bad. I just think that this movie is a bit of a transition, and I think that maybe this is like what was like a wake-up call to him about like, hey, maybe you already did enough with this robotic style, and you have to move to something else.
Agreed.
Yeah. Should we go over the questions?
Let's do it.
Sorry. So, would you watch it again?
Yes, and in the prioritized list of Lanthimos films, this is kind of towards the top. I would watch this again before I watched Dogtooth, for instance.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Again, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean I think Dogtooth is a better or worse film, but in terms of rewatchability, yeah, this is an entertaining film.
And Dogtooth is not?
Dogtooth is a little bit too difficult for me to watch. The incest and the rape and the violence.
No, that's fair. That's fair. There is more cruelty, like direct cruelty, in Dogtooth than here. Here there is still like cruelty, there is still sadness, but it's more about like this less weird, less directly, less visually brutal. Agreed. The most brutal scene, I think, that it would be like when they hit the kid, Martin, where the kid is in the basement, you know, and the other part is like when the father is trying to force the daughter to eat an apple. She doesn't want it. Stop. I will watch it again, and I had to say, I think that I brought you this, that I felt a bit pissed on how good Barry Keoghan was in this movie.
Yeah, he might just be an excellent actor, and he's getting specific roles, but I think he's really good.
I was like, look, this guy is selling it. Even like when he was explaining, like, hey, this is what is happening. It's like, okay, this is what is happening. It's like, it may be like the moment of most feeling across the whole movie that it leaves you like, what the fuck did I just hear?
And he plays, I would argue the character is intellectually challenged in a way. I get the impression the IQ isn't quite where it should be, and he plays that character with a lot of sensitivity and really well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's grieving. It's more about like, hey, I just lost my father in a very terrible way. I mean, terrible ways. It wasn't a surgery, but it's more like he's trying to make sense of what his life is right now, especially as this guy, Steven, has developed like this friendship with him. Like he was the surgeon. So I think that it's more about like a young, confused kid of what the fuck is going on here?
Okay, I disagree, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that because everyone acts so robotic, how can you say who has like a personal, you know, like how do you say, like some kind of mental challenge, and who is a surgeon? Until you don't sit in front of a heart. So yeah, I would watch it again, and I don't know exactly when. It wouldn't be like in 2 weeks, but I agree with you that it's like Dogtooth feels a bit more like work because of how bad things get, and here things get bad, but it's not so graphical or so rubbing it. Dogtooth may feels more like rewatching funny games.
It's a lot of work, and not to say things are spoon-fed to us in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, but it's definitely more enjoyable to watch, or easier to watch, I guess.
Yeah. Would you recommend it?
To a discerning cinema lover, absolutely. I'm not going to recommend it to coworkers, for instance.
Okay. I'm going to go with no. I bet I picked this one, but I'm going to go with no from the perspective that if someone asked me about Yorgos Lanthimos, I would probably recommend Dogtooth before this one.
Which one? The Lobster?
Dogtooth.
Really? You wouldn't recommend the favorite right off the bat?
No. I would recommend the favorite, and I think that it's easier to digest than this. And probably Poor Things before Dogtooth, and then it would be Dogtooth. But it's more like, because it's more like the kind of impact that you get like from the movie is that, oh, holy shit, I understand like what this guy is about with Dogtooth.
For me, it would be The Lobster, and then I would want to rewatch Poor Things one more time to decide if I like the favorite or that one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But for me, it's like I will have to dig like multiple layers until getting to recommend this movie. So from that perspective, is that I wouldn't how do you say, like recommend anyone to steer away from watching it, but also at the same time, there are like many more movies from Lanthimos that I would recommend before this one. This is not out.
You're out at a bar, and somebody said, "Hey, did you see Saltburn? Have you seen anything else that actor's in that's good?"
Oh yeah, definitely The Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dunkirk.
So yes.
Yeah, okay, yes.
The Banshees of
Inisherin. Yeah. Okay. You are right. I will actually swap these to yes, because I wouldn't recommend the Banshees of Inisherin, but just because I couldn't pass from the 15 first minutes. So, would you remember the killing of a secretary? I think that you already gave the answer to this one.
The answer is going to be no, to be honest. I remember no. The answer is just no. I didn't remember the premise yesterday.
A week and a half after that. I'm going to go with yes because I watched it before we went to Palm Springs. And before, I think...
You watched it a month ago, at least.
Yeah, when I was in Spain, I think. So from that perspective, it has been like a month and a half, probably. No, a month. More or less a month. And I still remember like the key points of the story. So, yes. Is there anything artistic about it?
Without a doubt, the direction is just top notch. I mean, he's so strong. He knows exactly what he wants us to see, and he's able to do it. And I think all the performances were exceptional. I think the writing was good. Even the kids were good performers, like super good.
Yep. The kids, I fully agree with you, and I was like pretty impressed about like the kids being able to fit into this weird acting style. There's like, you know, like Colin Farrell or Nicole Kidman or how do you say, like this kid Barry Keoghan. Is like sure, you know, but these other two, I just felt like they're decent at this.
Yeah, when they had to pretend they couldn't walk and they had to drag themselves across the floor.
Oh God, that's crazy. Yeah, so from that perspective, I agree with you. That is like from a directing point of view, Yorgos Lanthimos' vision, he cannot hold it back. Is that sometimes we talk about like directors that they imprint a specific style, and is that you can see this movie and you will say, it's like, yeah, this is from the director of The Luster, this is from the director of Doctor. I think that in The Favorite, he departs a bit. You can still realize that it's like, it's from the same director, but it's not as, how do you say, like continuist with the previous style.
I agree.
Is it a timeless piece?
Yeah. There's nothing that roots it in the time, and also more importantly, the themes are timeless. And we didn't touch upon this because I don't know the Greek myth very well, but this is based on a Greek myth called Iphigenia. I don't know how to say it correctly. So, I mean, this story has been told for like 4,000 years. It's timeless.
I think that's like a good way of putting it. If it's based on a Greek drama or a Greek myth, it's like, that's enough. It's timeless. That has proved the point. No, but the way of telling it also is like, I think that is like pretty timeless. It doesn't matter if it's in 2015, I think that it is, 17. Or if it's like 17, or it's like in the 80s. I think it would have been the same. Maybe the directing style would have been like slightly different, but beyond that, there is nothing that it roots it in right now.
Agreed.
Would you turn this into a TV show?
I almost always answer no to this, but to be honest, if this popped up on HBO Max as like a 5-hour miniseries, I would be down. I 100% would be down.
Did you want more time of Alicia Silverstone?
Yeah, she was amazing in that scene. I was like, I actually texted you when she popped up and I was like, how did I forget she was in this? And then she just stole the show for like 10 minutes and I was like, show us more of Alicia.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm still going to go with no, from the perspective that making it longer may be too draining with this style.
What if you only watched 1 hour a week? Like
weren't you telling
at the end of the world?
But weren't you telling me that you actually stopped watching it because you couldn't stand that you had to wait for a week?
Yeah, because I don't like that. But you said you like that's fine.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm still going to go with no because it gets to a point like this very robotic style. It gets to a point that just bores me.
That's fair. Like I said, I almost always say no. For some reason, this is a yes for me.
That's completely fair. Yeah. Do you think that The Killing of a Sacred Deer, the movie, not the 5-hour miniseries in HBO Max, could have been a short?
No, absolutely not. Like, you have to sit and stew in this world, I think, to get it. This couldn't even be close to an hour. How long was it? 2 hours?
2 hours, I think. Yeah. Yeah. You have to see like 5 minutes of the daughter, like just like crawling.
I mean, that's the point. That's the way he directs. That's how he gets a story across, and it's very effective. I wouldn't change that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And do you think that this movie could have been better?
Honestly, I know we had some minor complaints about it, but I wouldn't dare to suggest something to improve a movie like this. I think one of the criteria I use to talk to you about whether or not a movie was good is if it's better than anything else I can see in movie theaters right now. And this is better than anything else I can see in movie theaters right now. So
that's fair. I was debating because I mentioned earlier that the emotional impact wasn't there because of the acting style, and maybe with a different acting style, this would have like more gravitas. But a part of me feels like that would be a different movie, and I don't know if that movie would have been better or not. So I'm going to go with no, because it's like, hey, dude, this is like such a question mark that there is no way. Maybe ChatGPT can answer it. Like just create a movie that instead of being directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, but with this script from The Killing of Sacred Deer, is directed by Spielberg.
You are a fucked up Greek director who clearly had a fucked up family growing up.
No, but who do you think, if we were to take, like the script, and we want to direct it in a way that it has emotional impact. That's the only thing that we want to prioritize, emotional impact. Who do you think that would be like a good director for this?
100%, and I know we are like a broken record. Michael Haneke could have made me feel enough emotions while getting the story across that I would be hurt and damaged and upset.
That's right. Do you think that he would work well for the weird twist of there is no explanation, this is a bit more like supernatural? Because usually he's more grounded.
He is more grounded, and he also writes his own stuff, right?
I think so.
He wouldn't do it anyway, but I guarantee you if you gave him the final script that Yorgo worked from and asked him to make a film, it would be a little bit better than this.
That's fair. You know who I was thinking that we could go with? Richard Eyre. Do you know who that is? Richard Eyre?
I have no idea who that is.
The director of Notes on a Scandal.
I feel like you're being mean to me, but I feel like he could have at least injected some emotion. It may be completely synthetic, superficial emotion, but we would have felt it.
You will have felt it like for 5 minutes. You'll be like, oh my God, this is like the best. No, this was not good.
I felt it for like 3 years. I loved that movie until you ruined it for me.
I'm sorry that I brought that mirror in front of you. Cool. So these were all the questions. Should we score it?
We should. This was your pick. I have to score it. And I have to tell you, I started out this conversation at 7.5. I think it's gone up to an 8.5. I'm going anywhere between an 8 and an 8.5.
Okay. 8.5 then?
Yep.
8.25?
8.25.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to go with an 8. I was a bit torn because it's like, for me, when I finished watching it, I was like, oh, this is way better than I was expecting it to be. It was like entertaining in a bit of a sick kind of way. It's like some of the scenes, like when they're having sex, when the kids are like trying to make a case for them, is that they're like pretty sad, but they're still entertaining to watch in a twisted way, But I think that like the idea of you watched it like a week and a half ago and you forgot it, and for me it was like a month and a half ago. A part of me just feels like, what is the lasting emotional impact of this? And that's the reason why I'm like, it's an 8. It's a good movie. It's a good movie, but I don't think that it has like the same gravitas as I would say for Poor Things. And now I will tell you something. You scored this higher than Poor Things.
That doesn't surprise me. And again, as I already said in the recording, I need to watch Poor Things one more time to understand how I feel about it. So that score could change.
Yeah.
Just like if I had scored The Killing of a Sacred Deer back in 2017 when I saw it, I guarantee you I would not have given it an 8.25. So
Yeah, no, that's fair. So if we don't have anything else to say about The Killing of a Sacred Deer,
so this is my pick, and we're sure about this. And I'm to pick. Yeah, we're clear. This is definitely.
Yeah, we're clear. We're clear. Now your pick is coming up.
We know it's your pick because before we started recording, you said you would never pick this film. So we're gonna watch All of Us Strangers. I'm blanking on the director's name, but he did Weekend, a very famous queer film, 45 Years, and others.
And others, and more, many more.
I just can't remember them.
Yeah. Looking forward to discuss it. And well, to everyone out there, thank you so much for putting up with us.
And until next time.
Bye.